with Joanne Shoebridge.
Good morning. Lovely to have your company today. Welcome to all our Midnight Coast listeners. Just filling in for Michael Spooner for today. He'll be back on your radio tomorrow. I hope you had a great weekend. Coming up on the program, we're going to follow the news that broke yesterday that the government will try to compel people to vaccinate their children by restricting access to welfare benefits. We're going to have a look at this issue this morning on the program. Of course, there are pockets of very low immunisation compliance on the North Coast, and it's certainly an issue that's generated a lot of consternation. The government has acted. What do you think about it? Is this the right move? Is it reasonable to compel people who, for whatever reason, decide they don't want to immunise their children? Is it reasonable to do that for the greater good, or is it a step too far? You might have a view. You can SMS Joe to 0467 922 684. June from Bonny Hills says childhood vaccines protect against diseases which kill or cause dreadful damage. Ask older people to describe polio epidemics. You don't need 100% of children vaccinated to achieve good herd immunity, but over 90% is desirable. Thanks so much, June. You may share June's view, or you may have a different one. And as I mentioned, you can SMS 0467 922 684 or phone 1300 65 994.
Visit your ABC shop this week.
North Coast, and parents who refuse to have their children vaccinated could miss out on up to $15,000 in federal government benefits, including family tax and childcare rebates. Over the weekend, the government announced a no jab, no pay policy for parents who refuse to vaccinate their children. Under the proposed changes, parents who've previously been able to register as conscientious objectors on various grounds, including religious grounds, will now have to be registered with a church or similar organisation that is approved by the government. Let me know what you think of the government's proposal. 0467 922 684. So those people who had previously objected on conscientious grounds for reasons other than religious will now be excluded from family tax benefits if they do not choose to vaccinate their children. Well, Heidi Robertson is from the Northern Rivers Vaccination Supporters Group and joins me this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Joanne. Thanks for having me on.
What do you think of the government's move?
Well, it certainly took us a little bit by surprise. Look, we welcome some aspects of it, and we simply don't have a stance on other aspects of it. So let me just explain a little bit. So as you know, our region here in northern New South Wales has very low immunisation rates. Across the country, I think it's about over 90%, which is a good coverage. But in Mullumbimby in particular, we have just under 50% of 5-year-olds that are fully vaccinated. So when the government talks about, good coverage rates and what we can do to increase the coverage rates, there hasn't really been enough information, enough research go into areas like ours that have a unique demographic and have clusters of vaccine-hesitant parents. So as far as withholding the childcare rebate benefits go, we just don't have a stance on that in particular because there's simply not the research done to say whether or not it's going to sway immunisation rates either way.
No, you're right. Continue, please.
I was going to say, as far as the conscientious objector tightening up the rules around that, we certainly support the tightening of the religious exemptions because there are no mainstream recognised religions in Australia that deny the science of immunisation. And as far as philosophical beliefs, we also support the scrapping of that because the science is clear. The vaccinations are overwhelmingly safe and effective and a very important public health initiative.
Regardless of, clearly you support vaccination, many people do. And I would imagine, though, there will be some people in the community who are concerned that maybe the ends are being used to justify the means, and that compelling people to immunise their children in this way may not be the way to go, in that you're not necessarily going to change their points of view. Do you think there's an argument there? Is that reasonable to make that point?
Look, yeah, as I said, our group really, we don't have a stance on the withholding the childcare rebate, because we simply don't know if it's going to work or not. If it does work, great. If it doesn't, we just don't know. There's no evidence to support it either way. So we can't really comment on that. All we can comment on are that we are very happy that the government is supporting initiatives to help increase vaccination rates, but we would really, really like some research, some money put into research into unique demographics like ours in the Northern Rivers. As you know, the listeners would probably know that very recently little baby Riley Hughes died over in Western Australia from pertussis, whooping cough, at 32 days of age. And similarly, Dana McCaffrey from this region, also at 32 days, lost her life to whooping cough back in 2009. Now, those two babies lived in regions like Dana did live in our region, but also Riley over in Western Australia lived in a similar region where there are clusters of vaccine-hesitant parents. So this needs addressing. We are not like other areas of Australia. We don't have an over 90% coverage rate. We are at serious risk of epidemics in our region because of the dangerously low vaccination rate.
So do you think the government should go further, and that this isn't necessarily the only step that needs to be taken?
Look, the only thing we would say is again that we would really welcome some research done into our area, which hasn't been done yet. And it's only then, and we will follow whatever that research, whatever the science says, we will follow that and take steps to support the science, because that's what it's all about. It's about the science. It's about the irrefutable evidence that we have at the moment that vaccines save lives. They're safe and effective, and we would welcome research into how to get people in this area to understand that the government, in this instance anyway, is not out to get us. You know, it's not a conspiracy. No one wants to hurt children. Vaccines save lives.
On ABC North Coast, I'm speaking with Heidi Robertson. She's from the Northern Rivers Vaccination Support Group. And, of course, we're going to the Mid-North Coast as well this morning. We're just filling in for Michael Spooner. You may have thoughts on this issue. You can SMS Joe to 0467 922 684. Jan makes the point that, and raises this question, how are families not on welfare policed or enforced? And, of course, that's an issue too, especially in the northern beaches and North Shore of Sydney, where there are also low immunisation rates, and people may well not be on benefits of any description. Heidi Robertson, do you have a view on that?
Well, yeah, that's another area clearly that needs to be looked into. No, we don't have a stance on that either. I mean, if that's an issue that needs further investigation, that's sort of beyond our scope as a small community group to look into those issues. Our basic aim of our group is to direct people to credible sources of information and to counter the wealth of misinformation that is out there regarding vaccination. So we've put together a website which has links to all the credible information for people. It's at www.nrvs.info, and it's written for community members. It's written for the Northern Rivers Vaccination Supporters members and for the wider community. And we've got lots of people nationally and even internationally taking an interest in the website now, because we do link to only the credible sources there.
It's such an emotive issue, for parents, of course. If you are somebody who is concerned about vaccination, albeit for reasons that have no scientific basis, being compelled to immunise your child, you can imagine, would be very, very difficult in some ways. How do you reassure those people? I suppose you can only get them to go onto your website.
Well, that's right, and we certainly don't support mandatory vaccination. We've never stood for that, and we never will stand for that. We simply support people to get the right information from credible sources so that they can make a fully informed choice. And the fully informed choice is going to lead to them vaccinating their children because that's what the science shows us.
Heidi Robertson, great to seek your point of view on this morning. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Heidi Robertson on ABC North Coast. She's from the Northern Rivers Vaccination Supporters Group, and that website that she mentioned, if you are interested, is nrvs.gov.au.